it's Amanda here, and today is gonna be a day. Today I am ranking all of my ColourPop 12 pan palettes. We've kind of been leading up to this. I've done a couple other ColourPop palette rankings recently, and I felt like now was the best time to really go through and attack the 12 pans. I've been sort of avoiding it because it feels like such a big project and such a heavy project, but it's actually not as many as I thought. I have 28 12 pan palettes from ColourPop, and that is every single 12 pan palette they've ever released. I know that sounds crazy, but just go with me. Eventually you're gonna get an entire ranking video of every single eyeshadow palette that ColourPop has ever released. That's sort of what I've been working up to. So my next ColourPop palette ranking video, which I'm gonna try to do before they reopen so that it really is every single palette, because you know they're gonna come out with 11 billion palettes as soon as they reopen. So I'm gonna rank all 28 12 pan palettes. A lot of my favorite ones are discontinued. I'll do an overhead shot and I'll show you me actually sorting through all the palettes. But before we get into that, I just want to take a moment to remind you these are just my opinions about these palettes. And of course, everybody's going to have different experiences and different opinions. Deciding which palettes are best and which palettes are worst is a very subjective experience because we're all looking for something different. We all like different color stories, we all like different finishes, and even down to the fact that we all have, you know, different eyelids and different skin, and we're gonna wear things differently. So just keep in mind, if I give one of your favorites, one of your ride or die palettes a lower ranking, that doesn't mean that I'm ranking you low. You are still in the top of the pile for me. We just had a different experience and, you know, just have different opinions about eyeshadow palettes, but we can all still be friends here. So please don't be upset. Please don't be offended, because I know that I am going to put some palettes in low spots that have some very, very fervent fans. Is this what gets me canceled? If this is what gets me canceled, then I'll just have to accept my fate. I'm fine with it. All right, so just don't say anything mean to me about it, okay? Let's get into the sorting and ranking, and then I will wrap up all my thoughts at the end. The day has finally come. I am gonna rank all of my ColourPop 12 pan palettes. I'm kind of surprised. There's 28 here. I really felt like there was gonna be more than this. I don't think that I'm missing any though. Apparently they've released 28 12 pan palettes, and this is gonna be a tough one for me because, as you know from my comparison videos, a lot of these are decently similar. And I also have a very complex relationship with my ColourPop palettes. Maybe that sounds silly to you, maybe you totally understand what I'm saying, but I do have sort of an emotional attachment to some of these. So the way I'm gonna start is, just like always, I'm gonna quickly go through and break these palettes into 3 groups. They're not in any order right now. I'm going to split them up into 3 groups: least favorite, most favorite, and kind of middle of the road. Let's go ahead and do that first, and then we'll get to sorting. Okay, I think I'm ready. Are you ready? I don't know if I'm ready. All right, let's do it anyway. Before we go any further, I just want to quickly remind you, if we disagree about what our favorites or least favorites are, I'm definitely not dissing you by not liking your favorites. You guys know I'm not dissing ColourPop. I love ColourPop. I would take my least favorite ColourPop palette over hundreds of other palettes in the beauty world. And I'm also not dissing any collaborators if I don't rank their palette very high. I'm going off of my experiences, and a lot of the time I will end up falling more in love with something after I review it, or something better will come along and it will kind of bump down a palette that I previously loved down to more of a like not love situation. So with that being said, these are my least favorites. We're going to start from the bottom and work our way up. I'll put these in order and then I'll work through the ranking and kind of tell you at the end why I chose what I chose. Okay, so let's do that. Ready, go. All right, I'm sorry. Don't worry, Becky G. I'll make it up to you later when we talk about your Salvaje palette. My lowest rank palette for today is going to be the Ola Chola palette. The mattes in here are really nice. It's just a little blah for me. This is sort of the least necessary, and I feel like there's a lot of frustration surrounding this launch. This sold out really quickly and they never restocked it. It just sort of like disappeared into oblivion. It's fine. It's just, it's not exciting. I have all of these matte shades over and over again in these other palettes and many others. That's why the Ola Chola palette is in the last spot for me. Next we have the Rendezvous palette. This was an Ulta exclusive, and this one just didn't really do much for me. I really just couldn't get inspired by this color scheme, and I just never fell in love with this palette. I never loved any of the looks. I really struggled to use this one, and I know it looks like your basic palette with a pop of blue, but it just weirdly fell flat for me, so that's why Rendezvous is in spot 27. Now this is a hot take right here. I know that this upsets a lot of people. A lot of people love this palette and it's super cute. Look how cute it is. I just didn't really like the shades in here. Quality wise, the shimmers just fell a little flat for me. I wanted some really, really intense, crazy shimmers, and overall this just doesn't really work for me. It's not my favorite color scheme. I just don't love it. If you love it, then I'm glad you love it, but I don't love it. I tried to make it work, and I really like the cover of this palette more than any of the shadows inside. So, sorry, My Little Ponies. The whole middle row here, I'm just gonna breeze through these really quickly. These were some Ulta exclusive little butterfly palettes. These could sort of go in any order. I mean, this one is my least favorite of the three. This one called Butter Me Up. There was a lot of repeat shades, a lot of pressed glitters, which I just profoundly dislike. And this color scheme was the most flat and boring for me of the three. This is the A Flutter palette. It's okay. It was just a little blah for me, so I really like this shade called Dwindle, but other than that, this one, again, was just sort of lackluster in my opinion. I put Gimme Butterflies in the top spot simply because the shade called Winged I really, really, really love. But otherwise, same sort of thing here. A lot of repeat shades, pressed glitters, which I despise, and just sort of meh feelings towards this whole butterfly series. But if I had to pick one, I'd pick this one because I really love this shade called Winged. Another Ulta exclusive. This one is the Sweet Nothings palette. This came out the same time as the Rendezvous palette. Kind of the same story here, lots of repeat shades. Not feeling super crazy inspired by the color scheme. It's fine, it's just, again, not my favorite. These Ulta exclusives really don't knock my socks off, do they? Now we're moving to the top of the bottom. This is the Flutterby palette. And this one I actually liked way more than I thought I was going to. It's still clearly not in my top favorites. We've got some shades that are a little too similar for me, and I really, really like this shade called Sunflare. I think you can tell even after a few uses, it's just getting completely destroyed. Yet again, pressed glitter, don't love it, don't need it, don't want it. I don't put it on my eyes. So packaging on this is gorgeous, and I do like this way more than I thought I would. When I first opened this, I thought for sure that this would be at the bottom of the barrel for me. So it's alright, it's just, you know, not my fave. In spot number 20, it's the Whatever palette. Much like the butterfly one, this one is okay for me. I just have other warm red palettes in this same sort of color story that I prefer a lot more. You're gonna see those later in the ranking video. More pressed glitter, which, you know, since I said it 30 seconds ago, I still really hate. So this one was okay. Just I have red palettes that I like better, so that's why the Whatever palette was in the bottom group. Let's go to the middle now. I'm sure that this will be a little strange because when I first did my ranking my ColourPop palettes videos years ago, something like this, Give It To Me Straight, was right at the top. You know, it's made its way lower now just because so many great palettes have come out and dethroned my old favorites. And I mean, I'm sure my personal style has changed quite a bit too. I used to be such a neutral lover, and now I really want a little bit more excitement, a little bit more color. So those are the types of things that are going to make rankings change and also just differ from person to person, year to year. So that's enough of that gabbing. Let's put these middle palettes in order and then we'll go through them. Let's start at the bottom yet again. We have the Good as Gold palette. This one, it sort of has some of the same issues as palettes that we saw in the lower ranking palettes. Not eye safe pressed glitters. It has a very standard color scheme. This one was bumped into the middle category for a couple reasons. First of all, this AU Team shadow, the foiled shadow, I really, really love. I like how they went with a lot of these yellowy shades. I love the shade Trooper. I really, really like Gold Star and Diggin' You, so I felt like that yellow elevated that neutral color scheme. I do like this palette for a lot of reasons. Here's another one like My Little Pony that's about to get me canceled. It's the Sailor Moon palette, and this is really, really cute. I want to like it more than I do. This just doesn't quite do it for me. I explained in my review that I felt that this was sort of one note tone-wise. There were some shades that were just a little too similar. I wasn't getting enough depth in here. I know why the shades that are in here, but that doesn't change the fact that I am not super crazy about this. Again, the packaging's cute, the branding's cute, Sailor Moon's cute, it's all cute. It's just not my favorite palette-wise. Don't come for me. I hate ranking collabs low because I don't want people to think I don't like the collaborator. This is the Zodiac palette from Kathleen Lights, and much like the Ola Chola palette, another palette from this collaborator will rank higher later on in the video. This one, I love the packaging. I think this is super, super cute. I like the idea of this. I like the vibes. I like the thought process, but this palette, it's just not it for me. It's fine, but it's not great. That's why it's in the middle. Still love you, Kathleen. Still love your collaborations, still go crazy for them, but I just much prefer my Dream Street palette, so sorry to the Zodiac. Dang, another freaking collab. This is the She Femme Rosa palette. This was a collaboration with Karrueche, and she doesn't have another palette in this video, but I did rank the Brown Sugar palette that was also a collaboration with Karrueche really high in my 9-pan video, so hopefully that makes up for it. Love the cover art. This is absolutely beautiful. I like the idea with the 1 row of mattes and 2 rows of shimmers. These were just a little light, a little blah for me, but oh, it's pretty. I'm sorry. I like the packaging more than the shades though, and that's kind of a problem at some point when you actually want to wear it. An Ulta exclusive, redeeming itself a bit here. This is the You Are a Cutie palette. This was a Valentine's Day Ulta exclusive. You know I love purples. I thought this was a cute color scheme. It's that fine line between being approachable but having some little exciting things happening. Plus, no press glitters. Love that for me. This palette is beloved by many, and it is good. It is cute. This is the Sweet Talk palette. People just absolutely went nuts for this palette. I would like this a lot more if it didn't have these pressed glitters in here. The color scheme really is fine for me. I do find these warmer, peachier, with this sort of like peach meets mustard shade to be pretty interesting. I like the shimmers in here. I love that we finally got a Super Shock shadow in a palette. Pretty sure this was the first eyeshadow palette with a Super Shock. It's still in like the middle of the middle for me. It's okay. I know this is a lot of people's favorites. It's just not my personal favorite. We're getting into some OG palettes now. This is the Double Entendre palette. Lots of tartlet toasted vibes with these shades. I did a comparison video many years ago when this palette first came out, comparing this to the tartlet toasted palette, and that's what I always think of. This palette is so OG that there's no shade names printed inside. This one's okay. It's sort of a classic, and like I warned you at the beginning, I have an emotional attachment to the classics, but you know, we can admit it's not the world's best palette, at least not for me, but it's still good. It's still a staple. It's just it's not in the top for me. Speaking of still good, still staples, this is the Give It To Me Straight palette. I like this one. I know it's like a mauve-y neutral, warm neutrals in there, but I don't care. I still like it. I really like to travel with this palette. When I first got it, this was the only palette I would take with me because it had all my staple shades. So sort of a nostalgic favorite, the Give It To Me Straight palette. Not to be too punny, but I'm surprised by how high I ranked this one. When I think through palettes that I really enjoy, this one doesn't pop into my brain immediately, but the more I look at this, the more I enjoy it. And every time I've used it, I've liked it more than I thought I was going to. Maybe that's why they call it Element of Surprise. This is a nice little color scheme. It's very warm. We have some pops of color here. We have some really, really beautiful shifting shimmers. I never think about this one being a palette that I really enjoy, but it's actually pretty darn great. I like these pukey kind of colors, and I'm surprised, but here for it. All right, we're getting to the top spots. This is the You Had Me at Hello palette. I really enjoy this. I've recommended this palette so much. Can you tell how dirty mine is? Is this just a neutral palette? Definitely. But I feel like every color has a bit of a twist. I love this shifting, sparkly gold, rose gold type of color. I like that the purples are in here. Again, a little pukey brown. Enjoy that. This just has a good mix. This has been a great companion palette. This has been a great travel palette. It's cute and it's useful and it's reliable, and that's what I want in a palette. Another ranking that I sort of surprised myself with is this All That palette. This was just released for Valentine's Day this year, and this is a really interesting color scheme. Yes, it has my dreaded pressed glitter. It also has a matte black with a ton of glitters in it. Two formulas that I strongly dislike. But there's something about this palette that really intrigues me. I love this foiled shadow called Infatuation. This is super beautiful. I like the weird balance between reds and cool tones. Something about this just sort of draws me in. I always enjoy this palette. I like doing a more neutral look with this shade Fishnets all over the lid. I love doing a really sultry red look. I did not expect this one to rank this high again, but there's just something about it that really pulls me in and makes me excited and not intimidated. So that is all that about that. Now we're gonna do the best of the best. I'm nervous. Okay, here we are. We made it to the top. See, I told you that I still love Kathleen. All right, I'm very nervous about this part, but I'm also very sure of what I like and what I don't like after so many years of using ColourPop palettes. So let's go ahead and rank these babies. I'm sorry that I just hit that palette. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll behave. Let's go. Let's do it. In spot number 8, we have the Bye Bye Birdie palette. Love these rich jewel tones. I love purple. I like the combination of pink, purple, a little touch of neutral here. If it didn't have these two glitters, this probably would have moved way, way up for me. But as far as I'm concerned, because I do not put pressed glitter on my eyes, this palette has two shades that are not wearable for me. Do what you gotta do. I just don't put pressed glitter on my eyes. So that's why Bye Bye Birdie is in spot number 8. But a very respectable ranking, I think. Kind of the same song and dance for this California Love palette. I love this very retro, warm, sort of 70s summertime vibe of this palette. I have thoroughly enjoyed this palette. We've got one of these foiled shadows that I love. We've got gorgeous, bright mustardy yellow shade. Great shimmers. I love the shades. If this palette didn't have a pressed glitter, again, this one probably would have ranked a little bit higher, but I still really, really enjoy this palette. Plus, it's only one glitter instead of two, which is a lot more acceptable for me. Yep, just a big fan of this one. Really love my California Love palette. And I like to use this as a companion palette because it does have those very interesting neutrals. So I still love you, California Love. Speaking of neutrals, don't judge me for ranking something that is quite nostalgic so high. I know that this is a neutral palette with a lot of shimmers in it, and frankly, I don't care. I love this palette. I have loved it since I raved about it in my review. Another very dirty, very well-loved palette. This is like a mature, older sister of the Good as Gold palette. I like this for some of the same reasons. I love that there's this pop of bright yellowy gold. I can't really fully explain to you why I love this palette so deeply, but I do. The quality is just insane. At the time, there are no words. I think I love you. You're in spot number 6. You're a good little palette. An Ulta exclusive breaking the top 5. Alright, see, Ulta, you redeemed yourself. This is the X's and O's palette. Remember when I ranked the Whatever palette lower because I felt like there were similar color schemes that I enjoyed much, much more? This is what I'm talking about here. I shouldn't like this palette as much as I do. We are getting some repeat shades in here. I just continue to be blown away by this palette. I love every single shade. I love every single look I've ever done. You can make something very simple, quick, easy, wearable, I don't really like that word, but wearable, something more intense, something with a little color, something with a little smokiness. I love the packaging. This is beautiful. I raved about this palette when I reviewed it. Still stand by every word. Spot number 5, X's and O's. I wish that everybody could have gotten this because it's such a beautiful palette. This is the Dream Street palette. I feel like everybody who knows ColourPop knows this palette. I love this palette. I'm pretty sure they discontinued it. Every detail is just gorgeous, from the packaging to the shades. This combination is very inspiring to me. If I could, I would have switched out one of these because these two shades are quite similar for me, but otherwise, I love it. Quality, shade selection, packaging, everything is just top notch. Such a beautiful, beautiful palette. Why are so many of my favorites discontinued? Damn it, ColourPop. I know a lot of other people love this palette too, and it remains a favorite, so good on you, Kathleen. Sorry about where I ranked the Zodiac palette, but it sort of pales in comparison to this one, to be honest with you. Don't be fooled by the front of this palette saying cute AF, because the name of this palette is Yes Please. This is the true OG. This is the first 12 pan palette ColourPop ever released. Mine is a Hot Mess Express because this is actually the original palette. I have since gotten a newer version that has the shade names printed inside, but I felt like we should bust out the OG for this one. I love this palette. This is interesting and approachable at the same time. The balance of shades and depth and finishes is just absolutely right on for me. This is another one that can do a really quick, simple, work appropriate look. You could do super bold, bright looks with this. I love yellow eyeshadow, and this has some beautiful yellows, orange. It's just, it's yummy is what it is. I get hungry when I look at this. Do you want a snack? Yes, please. Get it? See what I did there? See what I did there? Whew, okay. Becky G, I know I ranked the Ola Jola palette the lowest, but the Salvaje palette is in spot number 2, so I feel like that makes it better, right? I can't explain to you how much I love this palette. Every single time I use this palette, I love it more than the last time I used it. Every time I travel, I bring this. I love the packaging. I love that there's a mirror. I love the combination of shades in here. I love that it's more matte than shimmery, which is weird for me to say because I'm such a shimmer girl. And this palette has 2 blues, and I'm not much of a blue girl, but just this works for me. This palette is so dirty. That's how you know. The palettes that I really love, I don't even bother cleaning off because they're just gonna get used again soon. So I'm sorry that I didn't clean this one for you. I love this palette. Clearly, it's second out of 28. It's just so good. It's so good. It's so beautiful. I love it. Another one that I think is discontinued. Why, ColourPop? Why? I may or may not have already purchased a backup because if this palette ever breaks, I will not know what to do with myself. Raise your hand if you saw this coming. Everybody knew this was going to be my top one. I'm really curious how many of you raised your hands at home by yourself because I can't see you. But I love you for that. The Good Sport palette. This is one of the best palettes that has ever been made. Clearly, I think that it's one of the best palettes ColourPop's ever made, if not the best. But this is one of the best palettes ever of all time. Just look at it. Do I even have to explain to you why? It is beautiful. Every single shade is perfection. Would not change one single thing. Wouldn't change one color. Wouldn't change one finish. I love this palette so passionately. Clearly that I'm waxing poetic about it. If I had the ability to bring back any single discontinued item in the world, it would be this palette. This is number one. It's no surprise to anyone. This palette is everything. So that's it. I cannot believe that was a much more painless process than I expected. And I doubt anybody is surprised by my top favorites. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you could probably already guess which palettes were gonna come out on top of the pile. I would absolutely love to know what your favorite 12 pan palettes are. Are you like me and just suffering from a bunch of discontinued favorites? Which palettes are your favorites? What are your predictions for the big final overall ranking video? Which ones do you think are going to come out on the very top? Leave your predictions, your opinions, your favorites, your likes, your dislikes, all that down in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Oh my gosh, I almost dropped all these palettes. Oh, mama. Oh, mama. Okay. Alright, okay. Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's fine. Did I just say 11 billion with a straight face? What are we gonna do with you? Sorting through all the palettes. What was this? Thanks. Whew, I'm sweating just thinking about it. All the people who love the My Little Pony palette are gonna be just claws out. It's okay, I'm glad you like it. I'm glad they made it, it's just not my favorite. It's not just me, you're nervous too? Alright, great, okay. I'm gonna stop rambling, or am I? Okay, maybe. Like, obviously. There's just dog hair all over my table, sorry. Somebody's staring at me through my window. They're driving by really slowly staring at me, because my ring light's like pointing out my window. It's fine, move along, sir. What am I even talking about? Why they gotta be playing with our emotions and discontinuing our favorites? Why, ColourPop? I almost did like an eyebrow, like, bye. Oh, I am just highlighted to the high heavens, and I love it, frankly. I look shiny, dewy, glowing. Alright, I gotta go. Thank you for watching. Love your face so much. I hope you have a great day. Don't forget to wash your hands, check on a friend, stay home if you can. Okay, love you, bye.